Ooh, you look rough.
Good job, little brother. High five.
Do not call me brother.
Aquaman 2 is out. It's definitely a sequel to the first Aquaman, starring Jason Momoa as Aquaman and also Amber Heard as Mera. Very surprised by that. Very surprised, especially with everything that happened in that, you know, that really famous, popular, memed upon trial. Kind of feels shameful to a lot of other actors who lost their jobs for a lot less. By the way, I'm sorry I'm jumping right into this, but it's just like the first thing that pops up in my mind when watching this movie. I expected to see her a little bit here and there. She doesn't have a lot of lines that actually impact the plot. In fact, by the time she's actually able to speak, it always seemed to cut away. So there probably was a bigger plot for Mera to eventually be a part of, but I think that the movie ultimately just changed based on what happened. And still, nonetheless, there's just a lot going on with her character in this movie. Surprisingly, I guess they just wanted to stay the course on this one and just let Amber Heard ride it out because, I mean, this is the last DCEU film, and that's a whole other topic on its own. I can't believe the DCEU is ending like this on a whimper. I'm just gonna go ahead and say it outright. This movie was in shambles. It was an absolute waste of time. It didn't know what it wanted to be. It clearly, I don't think, was planned out at all. Let's just go ahead and jump right into the plot. So at the beginning, we're following Black Manta. He's looking for some Atlantean power to power up his power suit, which is just ironically one of the lamest names available to choose from. Anyways, he's looking to power it up, and he stumbles upon this burial ground of the Lost Kingdom, and the Ghost King manipulates him into finding this element that causes global warming to elevate at a faster level in order to free his army and himself from this icy captivity. Meanwhile, Aquaman is struggling to be not only just a father figure, but also a leader of Atlantis, which he claims many times in the movie he didn't really want. He just wants to protect the dry land, or whatever the land dwellers, not the ocean dwellers. He wants to protect them both, yes, but the ocean dwellers, they still, regardless, even after the first movie, want to attack the people on the land. And he's like, yo, I mean, if they knew about us, maybe they wouldn't be causing so much of an issue in terms of pollution and, global warming. This movie definitely tackles global warming. That is a big thing, with global warming being such a big topic. And one of these sticking points from this movie, they really do like to lean away from it as much as they can. And so whenever the plot does reintroduce that, they're like, yeah, we do have to talk about that again momentarily, but then we want to go back and talk about something else that doesn't really matter as much. And in fact, it wasn't built up. Speaking of those non-built up messages, that would involve Aquaman's brother, or is it Orm or Orin? I can never really figure that out. I think it's Orm, but they have to release him from jail to get his help to face off against Black Manta. And the only reason they release him is because he had a situation with Black Manta in the past, and that's it. He just knew how to contact him. Anyways, they built up this brotherly bond between them throughout the movie. And when I say built up, I mean like it was totally lax, totally just whatever. And by the end of the movie, you're supposed to understand this brotherly bond, this message, this impact.
You're not as bad at this as you think.
And they're like, yeah, we are brothers. We deserve this. But as the viewer, we never actually officially feel like there's that confirmation there, that bonding moment. Like, yeah, they bond, they bicker, they argue, but even those scenes, they just don't seem to really understand each other. And it just ultimately doesn't come together the way I think that the filmmakers intended for that bond to come to its climax. There should have been a lot more emphasis on that, and there should have been a lot more emphasis on their main message of global warming. However, even apart from those two messages, there's like 20 other themes that this movie decides that it just has to tackle. The movie itself cannot seem to focus on one single individual message, whereas movies like The Holdovers, a really great movie, has maybe two to three different themes, focuses on that one narrow message, and then it glorifies it, and it makes the story and the characters stand out so much more. And when you're watching Aquaman 2, you think to yourself, no, I don't want to look at this now. I want to go back to this. You introduced me to this. I want to watch this grow and cultivate and see what it can turn into. Going back to the plot, Aquaman then teams up with his brother to stop Black Manta, and I guess that's it. I'm not going to go ahead and provide much more than that in terms of spoilers. I think we all know how this movie ends. It's your generic superhero movie. This is not Infinity War, where there's drama or character stakes and some deeply rooted motives. Everything here is super one-dimensional. The main characters especially. Some of the background characters, I don't know their names. I think one of them is the king of a different kingdom. He's kind of like the old man who doesn't really trust Orm. If you guys have watched the movie, you know exactly who I'm talking about. Not the crab guy or the shrimp guy who lost his arm, but the other older gentleman fellow. He seemed to be like the only dynamic character in terms of writing that was implemented into this movie. I wanted to follow him more than literally anyone else in this movie. Everybody else was a plot device. Mira, played by Amber Heard, she's just a plot device. And there are parts of me that think, wow, why are we reducing these female characters to these very simple one note? They just don't drive my attention kind of characters. I want to see some action-oriented female characters who actually are included into the plot and have something interesting to say, rather than just being a plot device to save Aquaman 3 different times in the movie. It happens 3 different times. He gets his butt saved by Mira. So I guess you can say that Mira is technically probably stronger than Aquaman. They also write her out of the movie a couple occasions, and then they keep bringing her back in. And then her CGI was absolutely bad. Like the wavy hair when they're in the ocean, it's not attached to their heads. It's like discombobulated. The entirety of the CGI is terrible. The slow motion frame rates. Are you kidding me? This is a multi-million-dollar movie. I don't even know what the budget is. You know, let's go ahead and look it up real quick. Variety confirms that Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom is carrying a $205 million budget. 205. Godzilla Minus One had a $15 million budget. You can say some things about the CGI, but the fact that it was still better than most of this movie, I'm stunned. I am absolutely just stunned by this report. Like, you can tell that they recorded those scenes on 24 frames, and then they slowed it down even more, in turn causing some frame slippage, and it doesn't look good. Why not rather go back, even shoot it in just 60 frames, just to add that emphasis of slow motion, shoot it at even 120 frames per second. This Sony a7S III that I'm filming this review on can shoot at 120 frames a second. So why couldn't they plan for that? Why couldn't they reschedule that? Why cause that to happen and then take the audience out of the movie? But again, not only that, the CGI, it also moves as if it was slow-mo 24p. It was very blocky. The background characters, some of them weren't even animated. They were just sitting there. In terms of both CGI and story, this movie is way worse than The Flash. The Flash actually managed to get me to tear up at the end when he was holding that, what was it, a can of tomatoes? I don't know. Regardless, they made me cry over a can of tomatoes, whereas this movie, I was just kind of waiting to get to the end. I never really cared about the movie. They have better CGI in the opening intro with the Justice League in all of their DCEU movies, and that looks very Play-Doh-y. The lighting looks gross, and it's better animated than a lot of what we see in this movie. I can't believe the DCEU is ending like this on such a whimper. What a way to go out. I'm stunned. I'm absolutely shocked. If it's not clear, don't waste your money watching this movie. I mean, I'm excited for James Gunn and his more brighter, happier version of Superman, and to see where they take the Peacemaker TV show. Peacemaker, by the way, still my favorite DCEU property. Loved the second Suicide Squad movie. Those are probably like the only two standout movies. Marvel, you can say, yeah, after Endgame, kind of went downhill. Had a good couple of moments here and there, but the DCEU never really had that grand storyline that the MCU had always set up. They're both just kind of in this blundering predicament of what to do next. Go back to the drawing board. Stop creating content. They're making content, not movies. This is content, and I am sick of it. I can't believe that they've released this movie, and even The Flash to some extent, into theaters. But then they scrap Batgirl or Batwoman or whatever her character is. But I'm done.